Clint Eastwood was reviewing the script for The Gauntlet in his Malibu office when his assistant burst through the door, her face pale with terror. "Mr. Eastwood," she stammered, "there are 3 men outside. They say they're from the organization. They want to talk to you about your future projects." Clint looked up from his script, his jaw tightening. He knew exactly what the organization meant, and he knew this conversation had been coming for months. "Send them in," he said quietly. "Sir, maybe you should call security, or the police, or send them in, Patricia." 3 men in perfectly tailored suits walked into Clint's office. They moved with the controlled confidence of apex predators, and their eyes held the cold calculation of professional killers. The leader, a man with silver hair and dead fish eyes, sat down without being invited. "Mr. Eastwood," he said in a voice that sounded like gravel mixed with wethy, "we need to discuss your career choices. Certain people are very unhappy with the direction you're taking." That meeting would mark the beginning of the most dangerous period in Clint Eastwood's life. A 2-year war with organized crime that would force him to choose between his artistic integrity and his survival. Now I'm going to tell you the story of how Real Mobsters tried to end Clint Eastwood's career, and how his refusal to back down nearly cost him everything he had worked for. The trouble had been building since 1976, when Clint began developing projects that portrayed organized crime in an unflattering light. Unlike his earlier Dirty Harry films, which focused on street crime and psychopaths, these new projects were targeting the mob directly. The first warning shot came when Clint announced his intention to produce and star in The Gauntlet, a film about a cop protecting a witness who could testify against organized crime figures. Within days of the announcement, phone calls began coming to Warner Brothers executives. The callers identified themselves as friends who were concerned about the studio's upcoming projects. "This Gauntlet picture," one caller told studio head Frank Wells, "it's going to cause problems for a lot of people. Good people. People who don't like problems." Wells tried to dismiss the calls as cranks, but when his car tires were slashed in the studio parking lot, he began taking them more seriously. The callers weren't just threatening random violence. They demonstrated detailed knowledge of the film's plot, casting, and shooting schedule. Someone with inside access was feeding them information. But the real shock came when they revealed they knew about Clint's other project, a film he hadn't even announced publicly yet. "We also hear Eastwood's thinking about making a picture about Las Vegas," another caller said to Wells. "That would be a very bad idea. Vegas is a friendly town, but only to friendly people." The Las Vegas project was Casino, a film about mob control of Nevada casinos that Clint had been secretly developing with screenwriter Paul Schrader. Only a handful of people knew about it, which meant the leak was coming from someone very close to the production. The revelation that their security had been compromised sent shockwaves through Clint's inner circle. If the mob had sources inside his organization, nowhere was safe. The intimidation campaign escalated quickly after that. Clint's regular hangouts in Carmel began experiencing mysterious problems. His favorite restaurant had its health inspection suddenly fail. His country club received anonymous tips about irregularities in their liquor license. His local bank got surprise visits from federal regulators. The message was clear: "We can make life difficult for you and everyone you do business with." But the mob made a crucial error in judgment. They assumed that Clint Eastwood was just another Hollywood pretty boy who would crumble under pressure. They had no idea they were dealing with a man who had survived a plane crash, military service, and decades of dangerous film stunts. A man who had built his career on playing characters who never backed down from a fight. When the 3 mobsters sat down in his office that day, Clint listened to their demands with the same calm intensity he brought to his film performances. "Here's the situation," the silver-haired man explained. "You're going to cancel The Gauntlet. You're going to forget about any Vegas pictures. And you're going to stick to making cowboy movies and cop movies that don't mention certain organizations." He paused, letting the threat sink in. "In return, you get to keep making movies. Your family stays safe. Your businesses stay profitable. Everyone wins." Clint studied the man's face for a long moment. "And if I refuse?" The mobster smiled, but his eyes remained cold. Let's just say that Hollywood has a long history of tragic accidents. Stars who die in car crashes, fires, overdoses. Very sad, but these things happen. Especially, added one of the other men, to people who don't listen to good advice. Clint leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled in front of him. Gentlemen, I appreciate you coming all the way out here to share your concerns. But I'm afraid I have some bad news for you. The mobsters exchanged glances. I don't negotiate with terrorists, Clint said quietly, whether they wear suits or masks. The silver-haired man's smile disappeared. Mr. Eastwood, I don't think you understand the seriousness of your situation. Oh, I understand perfectly, Clint replied. You're criminals who think you can intimidate me into changing my artistic vision. But you picked the wrong guy. He stood up, his 6'4" frame casting a shadow over the seated men. Now get out of my office before I call the police. The leader stood slowly, his face flushed with anger. You're making a very big mistake, Eastwood. The only mistake, Clint said, would be letting you think you can control what movies I make. After the mobsters left, Clint immediately contacted the FBI. Agent Robert Mueller, who would later become FBI director, was assigned to coordinate Clint's protection. Mr. Eastwood, Mueller explained during their first meeting, you need to understand what you're up against. These aren't just local thugs. We're talking about multiple crime families with national reach and unlimited resources. The FBI's investigation revealed that the threats against Clint were being coordinated by Anthony Fat Tony Salerno of the Genovese family and John Gotti of the Gambino family. Both men saw Clint's projects as threats to their public image and their business operations. They're treating this like a corporate merger, Mueller explained. Different families working together because they see Eastwood as a common enemy. The scope of the conspiracy was staggering. FBI wiretaps revealed that mob figures across the country were being asked to contribute to a fund for handling the Eastwood problem. But the most chilling discovery came when the Bureau learned that the mob had put together a detailed dossier on Clint's life, including his daily routines, his family's schedules, and the security measures at his various properties. They're not just planning to threaten you, Mueller told Clint grimly. They're planning to eliminate you. The first attempt came 3 weeks later. Clint was driving home from the Warner Brothers lot when he noticed a black sedan following him. When he changed lanes, the sedan changed lane. When he took an unexpected exit, the sedan followed. At a red light in Beverly Hills, 2 men got out of the sedan and began walking toward Clint's car. One of them was reaching inside his jacket when a police cruiser happened to turn the corner. The men immediately returned to their car and drove away. But the message was clear, they could get to him anytime they wanted. The second attempt was more sophisticated. Clint was scheduled to appear at a charity event in San Francisco, when his security team discovered that someone had planted a bomb in the hotel where he was supposed to stay. The device was hidden in the ventilation system of the penthouse suite, set to detonate during the hours when Clint would normally be sleeping. Only a last-minute tip from an anonymous caller had prevented a catastrophe. Someone inside their organization is helping us, Agent Mueller told Clint. But we don't know who, and we can't count on them to save you every time. The pressure was taking its toll on everyone around Clint. His family was living under constant security. His friends were being harassed. His business associates were receiving threats. Warner Brothers executives begged him to abandon his mob-related projects and return to safer material. Just make another Dirty Harry movie, studio head Frank Wells pleaded. Give the audience what they want, and give these people a reason to leave you alone. But Clint refused to back down. If I give in to them now, he told Wells, I'll never be able to make another serious film. They'll know they can control me. The turning point came when the mob made their biggest mistake. They went after Clint's son. Kyle Eastwood, who was 15 at the time, was leaving his private school in Carmel when 2 men approached him in the parking lot. Tell your daddy, one of them said, that accidents can happen to anyone, even kids who think they're safe at fancy schools. They didn't touch Kyle, but they made sure he understood the threat before walking away. When Clint learned about the incident, something fundamental changed in his demeanor. The calculated calm that had served him so well as an actor was replaced by a cold fury that frightened even his closest associates. They crossed a line, he told Agent Mueller. Now it's Clint's response was swift and devastating. He announced not only that he was proceeding with both The Gauntlet and his Las Vegas project, but that he was developing a third film specifically about organized crime's infiltration of Hollywood. The announcement sent shockwaves through both the entertainment industry and the criminal underworld. "He's gone completely insane," Fat Tony Salerno was heard saying on an FBI wiretap. "This guy has a death wish." But Clint had calculated his move carefully. By making his conflict with the mob public, he had made it much harder for them to eliminate him quietly. The media attention also brought unexpected allies. Other actors who had been intimidated by organized crime began speaking out. Directors shared stories of projects that had been shelved due to mob pressure. The entire entertainment industry began to realize how much control organized crime had been exercising over Hollywood content. The FBI used the increased attention to launch a massive investigation into organized crime's influence over the entertainment industry. Dozens of arrests followed, including several high-ranking mob figures who had been directly involved in the threats against Clint. The breakthrough came when the Bureau flipped Vincent "Vinny" Ocean Palermo, a Genovese family capo who had been coordinating the intimidation campaign. Faced with federal racketeering charges, Palermo revealed the full scope of the mob's plans for Clint. "They were going to kill him," Palermo testified. "Make it look like a car accident or a robbery gone wrong. But first they wanted to destroy his career, ruin his reputation, make him suffer." The plan had been elaborate and vicious. The mob intended to plant stories about Clint's personal life, sabotage his film projects, and systematically destroy every aspect of his business empire before finally eliminating him. "They wanted to make an example," Palermo explained. "Show everyone in Hollywood what happens when you cross certain people." But their campaign had backfired spectacularly. Instead of destroying Clint's career, it had made him more popular than ever. Audiences saw him as a symbol of artistic integrity, standing up to criminal intimidation. The Gauntlet became one of the biggest hits of 1977, partly because moviegoers knew that Clint had literally risked his life to make it. The film's success sent a clear message to organized crime. Their intimidation campaign had not only failed, but had actually strengthened their enemy. John Gotti, who had been one of the driving forces behind the threats, was reportedly furious about the outcome. "We made this guy into a hero," he was heard saying on another FBI wiretap. "We should have just ignored him." The final blow to the mob's campaign came when several high-ranking figures were arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Fat Tony Salerno was eventually convicted and sentenced to life in prison. During his trial, prosecutors used his threats against Clint as evidence of his criminal conspiracy. John Gotti met a similar fate, though his downfall came several years later for other crimes. With their leadership in prison and their plans exposed, the remaining mob figures quietly abandoned their campaign against Clint. The victory came at a significant personal cost. Clint had spent 2 years living under constant threat, never knowing when or where the next attack might come. His family had been traumatized by the experience. His business relationships had been strained. His trust in people had been severely damaged. But he had proven something important. Organized crime could not control Hollywood through intimidation if people were willing to stand up and fight back. When Clint won his first Academy Award for directing Unforgiven in 1993, he made a subtle reference to his battle with the mob. "This award belongs to everyone who believes that art should never bow to intimidation," he said, "no matter who's doing the intimidating." In 2009, at age 79, Clint finally spoke publicly about his confrontation with organized crime. "They thought they could scare me into submission, but they forgot something important. I've been playing tough guys for so long that I became one." He paused, then smiled with the same steely determination that had made him famous. "Besides, after you've survived a plane crash and made it through military service, a bunch of overweight guys in expensive suits don't seem that scary." The mob's attempt to end Clint Eastwood's career had accomplished exactly the opposite. It had transformed him from a successful actor into a symbol of artistic courage and integrity. And it had proven that sometimes, when faced with the choice between safety and principle, the right choice is to make their day. But more importantly, Clint's victory had opened the door for other artists to tell stories that organized crime didn't want told. The death threats that were supposed to end his career had instead ended organized crime's ability to censor Hollywood, and that was a victory worth fighting for.